When we look at how we're going to install our climbing system in the tree, we've got a few different options. So to start off, what most people will go to is a base anchor, because it's very easy to install. So we've got a line over a branch that goes up, and we install the rope at the base of the tree. So if we just look at first the considerations for installing and what kind of branch to go on, we've got to think about, if we have our anchor at the bottom of the tree, then when we load this leg of the rope, the standing end of the rope, then it's going to potentially double or even further increase the load on the branch at the top. So if we've got 100 kilos on here, up and over, it's taking 100 kilos of force on here, resistant force, so 200 kilos on the branch, and that's just static. So when you start bouncing and stuff, you do have to think about the load that's going to be on there. So you want to choose quite a sturdy branch. Now when it comes to the actual anchoring, we've got a few options. We start off simple. So knot that most people are familiar with, it's just a running bowline. And I'll just clip the end of that up to keep the knot secure. So that's this anchor point in its simplest form. Now we could improve that slightly by either adding a ring here, or what I quite like to do is we tie a bigger bowline and just add a couple of wraps. And that'll basically hold the knot in place, and it also reduces the wear on the line if you're loading and unloading the rope a lot. So should always secure a bowline, because it's not technically a secure knot when it's unloaded. So it's always good to either tie a stopper knot or back up the tail so it doesn't pull through. So that's going to keep the knot in place. If we're taking weight off our system, this can move around quite a lot, so it tends to, you see that it tends to stay still when you take your weight off the line. Other things we can do here to improve the safety, I suppose, is you could add a butterfly here or two. We start looking into lowerable base anchor systems, but it starts to get quite complicated. You'd have to introduce another rope to potentially lower someone. You could add more hardware like ISC D4 or a Petzl rig. There's obviously new risks coming with all the new gear that gets introduced. I think the biggest drawback with this kind of system is working off it. You're likely to start working without inspecting your final anchor point from up in the tree. And also that we've got this whole section of rope running through the tree which is at risk. It's something else to think about, that we don't want to be cutting anywhere near this. We don't want to be dropping branches on it. Your ground crew needs to be aware that that's a risk. So personally wouldn't recommend working off this kind of system. It's really just for access. You go up and reconfigure the system somehow to carry on working. Now we can look at Canopy anchors. Can be really easy to install. You just need to isolate your line like it is here, and in its simplest form I'd say it's just a midline butterfly. Pull the end through and that goes up to the top. You can work off that always good to climb up and inspect your anchor point before you start to work. And with all of these SRT canopy anchors, you need 2 legs of rope in order to retrieve the anchor when you're done. So in this case, when we're finished, you can pull this one down. What you need to think about is you've always got to follow your retrieval leg down. If you go out through redirects, then you could potentially create a lot of friction and make it more difficult to retrieve. And you can make this more efficient. You could add a ring or a pulley here to aid that retrieval, but I think we can do one better by setting it up slightly differently. So here, another canopy anchor, we could do just a simple running bowline, so not everyone's familiar with. Now, what a lot of beginners at SRT will do is start with the running bowline, pull it up to the top of the tree and ascend, or maybe work on SRT, and when they're done you can either just clip in the eye like so and descend on double, or you could untie the bowline and clip in, come down. So we call that single up, double down. It's a really easy way to do it. Otherwise we can use a separate line for retrieval. So our bowline goes up and we can work, and then we've got, instead of just using one rope like we did with the butterfly system, we can just use a separate line to retrieve. But again, you need to think about how you actually descend from the tree so that you're not creating a lot of wear and friction on the knot when you retrieve it. So we can make this even better, I think, if we, let's have a look. We've got a couple of options with friction saver. So if we imagine that we've got a line in the tree, adjustable friction saver, I've got a thimble climb. If you set it as short as possible, put the line through the ring before you pull up, and then that goes up over the branch. Now the eye goes through the other ring, and we back that up with a stopper knot. Use a butterfly. You need to secure that either with a carabiner, or you can just pop the tail through if it's at the end, and then that can go up like so. Let me just put a retriever on there. So this is nice because you can install it from the ground pretty easily. It's really easy to retrieve, whether you use an extra rope to retrieve it or leave the tail longer. But what I like about this is when you actually get up to your anchor point, if you haven't got your final anchor from the ground, then it's really easy to just flip it over to double rope if you want, or to move your anchor point further up. Just got to undo the butterfly and then reinstall the anchor point. It's normally pretty easy to retrieve even if you don't come down parallel with your retriever, and again you can make it more efficient by adding a pulley underneath. So yeah, what we've got here is Our friction saver is installed around the branch. This really needs to be set up from within the canopy. You can do it from the ground, but it's quite fiddly. But I really like this because you can come down through as many redirects or what you want, and there's never really any excess friction on the line. One downside is you do need to drop your cambium saver from the tree, but it's the same concept. We've got stopper knot, so here I've just got my butterfly with the tail tucked through to back it up, and then a retrieval line, and we've run the rope through the cambium saver backwards, so we go through the big ring first rather than the small ring, and then the stopper knot backs up to that small ring, so we can work off here, and then whether you leave a long tail or a second line to retrieve, you just retrieve so easily. You got a couple of options with how to do it here. If you're using the thimble climb, you can block off into the big ring, and then you could put in your retriever ball and retrieve the cambium saver. You don't really want to be not blocking against the big ring of a normal cambium saver because it can get jammed. So what you need to do then is pull your whole system through. This is what I do, and retrieve off the other end of the rope. So yeah, a few different options there. So yeah, just put our retriever ball on and retrieve the saver like so. That's it.